All right, we'll do a little intro here. Now, this is probably the first toy that I ever had. This is a Fisher Price little person or person, and they were made out of wood. They were later on you'd see them made out of plastic in the early '80s, and then they came up with these little chubby characters. You would see Masters of the Universe had something like that. So like Fisher Price. Fisher Price was my first kind of thing, and after Fisher Price, then I got into Masters of the Universe, whether it was, well, mostly the old ones, right? The old school figures. That was my whole universe before video games, ever. So I had a whole world of this. No PlayStations, no Nintendos, no Xbox, no Steam. I mean, not we didn't even have a computer yet in the house. This is all that I had. Just mechanical toys that would do stuff. You know, the gun would fire here, and you make up stories about where the characters would go and what they would do, and what was Evil Lynn up to, what was Cobra Khan up to. That was my whole world. This was my video game when I was a little kid, from being a baby to a toddler and then growing up. Yep. This is Atari 2600. That's what you're hearing is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Very sophisticated music back then. Now, when I was little, okay, my sister is about 7 years older than me. So she was born in 1971. She got an Atari 2600 when she was maybe 8 or 9, so maybe 1980. Ah, that music. So let me see if I can lower it a little bit so it doesn't totally aggravate the ears. Okay. I did not know what video games were. I had no idea what video games should be about or what meaning they had. But when my sister, my youngest sister, who was, by the time I came to reason, let's see, 1980, I was 2 years old. So let's say 6 or 7. I think I was about 6. My sister was 13 when she had the Atari 2600. So by the time I was 7 or 8, like the Atari 2600 was starting to become a little obsolete. It would be outdone by the 5200, but not by much. That 5200, it's like a giant, it's like a fucking, like a laptop by today's standards. It's like a fucking VCR. And then you had the 7800. But the 2600 was what we had. We had all kinds of games like Combat and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Trek and Pitfall and Pac-Man and Quest, or what is it? I think it was called Quest or Castle or whatever it was. Whatever it was. That game. Space Invaders. I didn't know what a video game was. It was like just when I had figured out Uno cards and playing cards and Monopoly and Candyland and Pressman's Hangman and maybe electronic games with those was it LED red light displays that they had in the 70s. I thought I knew what life was until the Atari came around. And that was my universe, was looking at my sister playing Combat or Maze Craze or Pitfall. And it was just like the bleeps and the bloops and the little Lego bricky characters that were just so poorly like made. Now, some people like Vinny Vinesauce would just sneer at this stuff because he tried the Atari 50 that you see right there. But that was all that we had. This was all we had. Either you had this or you went to play pinball at Pizza Hut or Straw Hat Pizza or Round Table Pizza, or you played pinball plus video game like Granny and the Gators or Baby Pac-Man, or you played some sort of mechanical arcade, right? Like shooting baby ducks with the targets on them, or some other thing, some motorcycle game without video game on it. Like we had mechanical arcades and film strip arcades that looked like they would use mechanics and holograms and projections. We didn't have anything like the Xbox or PlayStation. Nothing. Not a damn thing. So my sister had this for a while, and I'll describe the dining room. That she put it in the dining room. So we had a old television set, just like this one, cathode ray tube, rabbit ears, everything. Okay. Next to it was a dusty old vinyl record player from the early 70s. And it had a lime green, neon green and orange light that would turn on when you turned it on. It had the wood paneling on it. Just like this little TV has a little fake wood panel on it, it would have the little wood paneling on it. And then next to that, well, were 8-track tapes. I don't know if we had the 8-track tape player anymore, but we had 8-track tapes. I had my old tape recorder that had the 60-minute and 90-minute cassettes. We had all kinds of stuff like just old records, wood panel walls within the room because that was in the early 80s, late 70s. It was still okay. It was still cool to have shag orange rugs and wood panel walls, those vertical wood panel walls. And we had an old parrot, like a mynah bird, and he was like getting old, bloody and old in his old age, to where he was molting and kind of picking at his feathers and bleeding a bit. So we had the dining room table and chairs next to the Atari 2600. And then we redid that whole thing into an expanded kitchen with a counter. So much like the kitchen counter that you see there, we had a kitchen that had a walled off room back in the early 80s. But next to that kitchen was the dining room and the Atari. So eventually my family sold the Atari to somebody, I don't know who, maybe somebody at my sister's convent school where she was going to high school, all girls school. So I have very few fond memories of this Atari. I could not work. This is not the actual one, but this is the flashback Atari joystick, and I could not figure out how joysticks worked. It wasn't until the NES that I figured out how things worked. But for this time, this was my knowledge of what a video game and a video game console was. And that's it. Is there more to come? I don't know. But this one ends in 3, 2,